Hey everybody, I'm Curtis.
And I'm Hannah.
And this is Love at First Fright. That thing where it's not funny, but I thought about it for too long.
Yeah, alright.
So now it's funny.
Take a deep breath in.
You gotta center. Welcome to our guided meditation. That being the energy right after the intro that we use is insane. What I was gonna do was, man, it's a hot one. Like 7 inches from the midday sun.
Okay, we can still do that.
I'm doing it now.
Is this it? Is this going in the edit? I thought we were being too self-referential about it.
No, this is fucked up.
You sure you don't want to start over?
No, I'm gonna leave. I think I'm gonna leave all this in. This is gold.
We nailed it.
That's right. We don't do second takes around here.
No,
except for when we do.
Yep. But and usually that's because like somebody farted or something. It'll
be because like the cat will start breakdancing outside the door.
Yep.
And we'll realize it partway through one of us talking, and then we'll just be like, no. But it's really hot. It's like
really hot.
It's still springtime.
It's humid. It's hot. I can see the pollen in the air.
I hate it.
Everything looks like it's yellow.
It makes my car look like a tennis ball. Like it's got the fuzz on it. I know this is what like everyone says.
Yeah.
You know.
Honestly, I've also been meaning to talk to you, and this is the perfect time on the podcast because you open the window in the bathroom when you shower.
Yeah.
For ventilation purposes, I do as well.
Yeah.
You leave the window.
Because it's a hot one.
You leave the window
like
open.
7.
Just sort of indefinitely until I close it.
It's kind of an indoctrination thing.
I want you to stop doing that because I found a small layer of pollen on one of my makeup brushes. Because you left it open all morning.
Well, you know. You can't take a shower without cracking a few windows.
Well, you can crack open the window safely without doing irreparable damage.
Yeah.
And then close it when the steam leaves. Which is what I do.
But I feel like the air wants to get in and out, you know? And who am I to deny it? You feel like the air wants to get in. Yes.
And out.
Yeah, the inside air wants to get out, the outside air wants to get in. And who am I to deny that?
I have a proposal. The fucking outside air doesn't pay my AC bill. Okay? So stop letting my inside air out.
I'll think about it.
I'll just continue to go behind you and close it.
I wish I had a screen. I don't know that it would help. Pollen's probably too small.
It might help. I mean, it would also help with the bugs because sometimes you also let moths in when you shower.
My friends. Yeah, they said they were coming over, and I thought it was cool.
Let them use the front door if they're your friends. Why are you trying to hide them? Say, oh, I don't want to be seen with you. Come in the back entrance.
They just, you know, that's how they like to get in. Sometimes I let them in through the front.
Yeah, I know.
And then they get on the TV.
They get on the TV, and it's a problem.
Yeah. It's fun because it looks like there's a little bug now in your show, and like the actor's like staring at it.
Yeah, or it's landed on the actor's face.
Or
eyeball.
Or Charlie decides he's going to try to get it.
Yep. And then he's swatting at the TV, sort of obstructing the view. Yeah. Which is great. Yeah. So anyway, these are some of my complaints. You got anything for me? We're in a sharing mode. What have I done around the house recently that you don't like?
I don't know.
I'll take that as nothing because I'm a perfect roommate.
No. I guess sometimes the laundry like comes out of the dryer and then it just goes. It like seems like it disappears, but I don't move it sometimes, and then I don't know where it goes.
I put it on the chair.
Yeah, I found it.
Was that a really big problem?
No, it wasn't a big problem. I'm just saying that's it.
So the laundry leaves the dryer, and then you're like, I don't know where it went.
Yeah, it could be anywhere.
Okay, I think you've got your own problems. I don't know I can't help you with that. That's sort of on you.
It's out of the dryer, though. I'm like, well, somebody got in here and stole my laundry.
Yeah, this is a you problem.
They left everything else in place.
I'm not going to take any feedback on this matter at this time.
No, that's fair. No,
okay.
It's just been hot.
It's been hot, and I get irritated when I'm hot because I can't regulate my temperature well. And once I get hot, my mood is ruined for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. I hate being hot. We also keep our house a lot colder than other people do.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's
so
like, I think like pretty noticeably colder.
It's kind of jarring sometimes to go into other places because I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and it's not like people are keeping it like, in mid 80s or whatever. No. It's like they'll keep it at like 72, but we're over here like,
I want it to be cold so that I can have like a blanket on, and the fact that you don't need a blanket in your environment means I'm inherently uncomfortable there.
Yeah. we're just two weird warm individuals.
Yep. That's why we're made for each other, because we're both okay with spending a lot of money in the summer on the electric, and then just next to nothing in the winter because we just turn that thing off.
Yep, it's just an expense. Every time the spring rolls around, and I say, "All right, here we go.
Here, it's time. This
is what we've been saving for. Yep, this is our moment, everyone.
Yep, and it's worth it, baby.
Crank it down."
Because I simply cannot live.
No, I've always preferred the temperature around me to be colder, and then I'll just put more stuff on me to be warm.
I think it's also a thing, and it's one thing if you live together or whatever, and like you have disagreements on this, but I will always be of the opinion that in any scenario, colder is better because the person who is cold can bundle up, but the person who is hot... there's no way for you to address that. If you're just in somebody's house and it's fucking hot, you can like take your cardigan off. That's only going to go so far. You're still fucking hot. Yeah. But if you're in my house and you're cold, I got blankies.
We got lots of blankies. Yeah. Because we're cold. Yeah. We keep it cold all the time.
Put your little hoodie on, bundle up, get a Snuggie. Yeah. Cuddle with the dog. You're perfect.
Light a candle.
And then you're comfortable.
Do this with a candle.
Yeah.
Put your hands on it.
Yeah. Not on it.
In it.
Around it. Hot wax it.
Yeah,
pour the hot wax on your hands.
Get them fingies in that wax.
Yeah, get them in there. Wiggle them around.
Yeah, no, it's so hot. It's honestly, okay, it's not that hot. But it is hot enough that
it's like uncomfortable.
Yeah, like walking from my house to the car, and I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah. Or like...
if I gotta be outside in this at all.
I walk Summer in the afternoons, and I'm just like, come the fuck on, dog. Like, we cannot hang out in this. Mm-hmm. I'm much more likely to let her just leisurely stroll around in the early morning or after sunset. Yeah. But at like 3 p.m., this is a business trip. We're stepping out. We're peeing on the closest patch of grass. We're going back in the house because it's hot. And it's like that for the next, 6 months here. Yep.
We don't like the summer.
No, I hate it.
It's not a fun time for us. Nope.
Is bad.
Anyway.
Anywho.
Well, this week I've been kind of delaying it because I don't like this movie that we watched.
Oh, okay.
I think I was more generous in my rating of it than I really feel about it.
Fair.
I guess.
I think it's good that I had the night to reflect on it, because I think I felt more negatively about it while watching, and I felt slightly more moderate upon reflection.
I think I had the opposite, where I felt like more neutral, and then as I reflected on it, I had that thing where I was like, I just feel like I wasted 2 hours.
That's actually one of the biggest reasons I didn't like it, is that it was too fucking long.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking about, I don't know, is this our first remake or / reboot on the show? It might be.
It might be.
Which feels crazy that we haven't done the original of this movie. But this week we're talking about Hellraiser 2022. So of course it's not a remake, really. It's
I think don't they say like a reimagination or something like that? It's
more of a reboot, because it has no plot overlap at all.
It has no plot, full stop.
But it's a reboot of the 1987 Hellraiser, which of course is based on the novella by Clive Barker, The Hellbound Heart. So I'm a big fan of the first and second Hellraiser movies.
Yeah.
I like the other ones, but in a so bad it's good.
They have a pretty steep drop off after the second. Is that the third one that has?
I think the third one might be when CD Head comes out. Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Because that one rules, but like in the,
it's bad.
Like this is really stupid.
Yes,
way, you know?
but it's great.
Yeah.
But I genuinely like both the first and second Hellraisers. I've also read the novella and I really like it. And so, and if you've seen the first Hellraiser movie, the 1987, then you kind of know what happens in the novella. Like, they're not exactly the same, but it follows it pretty closely.
Yeah.
So we are doing not any of those. We're doing the 2022 reboot.
Yeah.
And just for a little background, this was directed by David Bruckner. The screenplay was written by Ben Collins and Luke Piotrowski, from a screen story co-written by them with David S. Goyer. So a lot of cooks in the kitchen on this. And yes, this is a reboot of the Hellraiser franchise and the 11th installment overall in the franchise.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I know. They really made a lot of movies. I'll briefly go over the cast list. Going to hit some of the major players here.
Yeah.
We have Odessa Ezion as Riley, who's our main character. We have Brandon Flynn as Matt, Riley's brother. Adam Faison as Colin, who's Matt's boyfriend. Drew Starkey as Trevor, who's Riley's boyfriend. Jamie Clayton, who's billed as the priest, more colloquially known as Pinhead. Mm-hmm. And then there are some other characters, but those are kind of our main ones. Oh, I did also want to mention Roland Voigt is one of the characters in the movie, and he's played by Goran Vishnich, who you may recognize from other things. That's our cast. I was looking at the Wikipedia for this reboot.
Yeah.
And it seems like this sort of remake, reboot, new installment, whatever it might be, it's been in flux since like 2006, and there's gone through like a lot of iterations of this, including one that Clive Barker wrote himself and was supposed to direct, but then that got scrapped.
I have to have kind of a hard time believing that whatever that one was going to be worse than this.
I agree. I think it was more that he kind of didn't have final say over it. And so, because he didn't like own the rights.
Sure.
Until there was like a whole legal battle in 2020 where he like got the rights back and it was a whole thing. But that was like already when this movie was in production. And so he like came back after this concept was already created. Sure. And he was more of a consultant. But because he wasn't really involved in like the origin stages, it's a very different take, which in some ways I don't necessarily dislike. I am notably kind of a remake hater unless you have something new to say.
I agree.
And I do appreciate that with this one, they didn't just remake the movie, because my thing with that is unless you're adding something meaningful to a remake, like maybe you're just bringing it to a bigger budget or whatever it is, where you can do the special effects that they weren't able to achieve in an original or something like that. I kind of feel like, why do we need a remake of?
Yeah, I mean,
like a shot for shot.
I tend to agree that like with remakes, like I just typically don't like them all that much, because it's like one of two things. Either it is a remake where it is basically a shot for shot thing, which, like you said, it's just updating it graphically, basically,
right.
and
so
with
what's
like new
kind
people.
Of the need? So
like we didn't really need that, and a lot of times, in my opinion, when they do that, updating it graphically is just like putting in CGI, but that's also like not really that good of CGI, so it's going to age even worse than whatever the original one was, but whatever. Or it'll be a remake that looks nothing like the thing that they were doing, in which case, those times it can be good.
Right.
Because they are doing something, if nothing else, they're doing something different. So at least they have something new to say. The problem I have with this movie is that, like, they did have something new to say, but it wasn't anything good. I just didn't like it.
Okay, that's fair. I think my issue is, if it's so different, then there comes a point where there's a line there of having a new interpretation of an existing property versus telling a new story that probably shouldn't even be associated with it. It's the same argument that I had with the whole, like, The Strangers Chapter 1 thing of, like, if that wasn't billed as being part of the Strangers universe, it still would have been a bad movie, but it would have been, like, forgivably bad. Like, it would have been a popcorn flick.
Sure, yeah.
But associating it with The Strangers brings in a certain expectation that it didn't meet.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily feel as strongly as you do that this one didn't need to be made, but I'm not sure that I'm the audience for it. Like, the ways that they changed it were things that I happen to like about the original and I thought were compelling and interesting, and so I kind of missed those things.
Sure.
And to me, this was largely really the only way I felt that they improved upon it or, like, took their own firm stance was stylistically.
Sure.
Like, I thought there was interesting stuff they were doing with costuming and set design and things like that. So I really liked the execution of all of that.
Sure.
But didn't like a lot of the other things that they decided to do. And I feel bad saying it because it's like, I wanted to like it.
Well, and I think like what it is for me, like what it really can sum it up is that when the credits rolled on this thing, you and I both were like, I wanted to like it more than I did. So we went into it thinking, all right, because I also kind of distinctly remember when it came out on Hulu. Yeah. That, like, there was a lot of buzz around it. Oh, this is actually pretty good for, like, a remake, reimagining thing. So I kind of got excited about it. And then, as happens, I just never saw it. And so I was disappointed it wasn't better than it ended up being. I don't know. I find the way that they changed the story just, like, not really compelling. The characters were annoying in their, like, motivations and their decisions to do certain things. Right. A lot of it seemed really contrived, both, like, from, like, the hero protagonist standpoint and then also the cenobites standpoint. Like, and then they did the thing where, because it's a remake and they want to use some of the original cool stuff where like there are certain lines, like they're angels to some, demons to others, whatever. Right. Like, or we have such sights to show you, like those lines come up again, but like the way that they did it in this, at least to me, feels like just cramming in a thing they know is gonna like hit for like the people that are fans of the original Hellraiser stuff, and less of that it has anything to do with this new interpretation of it. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could make the argument, right, that like that is just part of Hellraiser, like those lines or whatever. And so, like, of course, that's why they.
That wasn't my complaint about it. Yeah. I thought that they handled that in particular semi-tastefully, because it could have been a lot more like every other line is, somebody making eye contact with the camera and going, Jesus wept, you know, like it could have been a lot worse, I think.
Sure.
So that didn't necessarily bother me that much. I think for me, the things that I didn't like about it, one, this is actually my biggest thing. And it's like, this is why I had such a negative reaction to it, like right off the bat. I didn't like that they essentially stripped away all of the sexuality of Hellraiser.
I agree.
Because I think that that's a huge part of both the novella and the existing franchise. There is kind of this, like, it's bordering that line between, like, pain and pleasure, and it's blurring all of that.
Yes.
And these movies are, like, very queer. I mean, it's written by a gay man, and he's very much influenced by, like, BDSM and kink culture. Yeah. And I felt like that was just non-existent. Like, there was really no focus on pleasure, sensuality, sexuality. They went in a completely different direction with it. And that, to me, was such a bummer, because I feel like that is inextricable. Is that a word? I don't think it is a word. What am I trying to say? You can't take it out of Hellraiser.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. And I agree, though, that, like, it's weird because the original, the first two in particular, but I mean, I think it carries through even at least into the third one and the other ones, like sexuality and everything. Yeah. That is a huge part of the entire thing. And you get, you know, as they go on, I think Pinhead gets a little flanderized and becomes this, like, cartoonishly evil kind of villain. The third one, whatever the one is where, like, all of them come out of whatever hell world they're from and they're just walking the streets blowing shit up, or whatever, that gets a little ridiculous and I think misses the plot. But this one misses it in that, like, it removes all of that. It doesn't even have it as a foundation. It just, like, removes it entirely. Right. And they go to these, like, pains to be like, the cube now has these different configurations and their god can offer you some kind of reward. Right. And it's different meanings and stuff like that. And it's just like, I can appreciate, I guess, what they were trying to do. But it just, like, to me, it just, like, it fell so flat. Yeah.
One thing, and I don't want to like rewrite history here, because again, I know that the Hellraiser franchise is a hot mess, and, like, as it goes on, it breaks its own rules and shit gets crazy, and, you know, what is considered canon is wild and everything. So I'm not trying to say that the original franchise before this one is, like, perfect and entirely consistent all the time. But at least in the first and second one, which to me is kind of the canon, like, I think of everything else after that as just like,
and what if they could do this?
Yeah. Like, but 1 and 2 is such a strong, like, story to me. Yeah. And they're very internally consistent between the two of them. Yeah. And one thing that was also important was that it wasn't as simple as interacting with the box or solving the puzzle. It was the desire. Yes. And so you couldn't, quote unquote, accidentally summon them. And they to a point where even in the second one, when the girl, I think her name is like Tina or something, like the mute girl in the psychiatric hospital who's like a puzzle genius, she completes it and they explicitly disregard her. And they go after the doctor guy because I'm pretty sure they say, like, it's not the hands that solve the puzzle, it's the desire. Yeah. And so they knew that it was at his will.
He wanted her to solve it.
Right.
So that
they went for him instead of her. Right. And in this movie, that's also not how it works. No. Which, again, like, that's their own way they wanted to do it. But to me, it felt a little bit cheaper. It felt more like any kind of, like, 2010s supernatural horror movie where it's kind of this thing of, like, you can pass it around willy-nilly and, like, someone just has to touch it or be stabbed with it or whatever. Yeah. And then you can just send it around like hot potato. And I didn't love that. Yeah. I understand that, like, this whole story couldn't have happened if that weren't how it worked. But I still felt like throwing away the idea that you have to desire to summon them. Yeah. and desire to like push the boundaries of sensation.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah.
A lot.
I mean, how many people is it in this movie that... So the first guy that we see, Matt, Riley, technically, although she survives. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 people that we see involved in this get stabbed accidentally by it because they're not, aware. You could argue the first guy, he does have this desire to solve it, as well as Roland,
right,
who's there watching him do it. But, like, the other 2 people...
A lot of them, actually. There's more than that, because the lawyer lady, she accidentally... you're right. Wrestling over it. So she had no desire. She actually explicitly had a desire to not use the box. Yeah. Which is why they were fighting over it.
Yeah. And then the other people who get stabbed by this thing get stabbed because the person stabbing them is using it, like, as a weapon because they know how it works.
Right. So that is wildly different from, earlier iterations. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. The other thing for me with this movie, and I'm going to eat my words here, this is actually the movie that has taught me something about myself, because I have long said, I'm on record on this podcast multiple times, having said that if you make a horror movie where the villain is a metaphor for mental illness, I'm gonna eat that shit up every time. And normally that does hold true for me. This is one of the first movies I've seen where it actively works against it for me, because the whole movie is kind of an extended metaphor for addiction and kind of the destructive nature of addiction, both internally but also towards like one's relationships. And it was so on the nose for me the whole time, even to the point where it's like, oh, she like finds some pills and she turns them over and it's like, well, maybe you should keep these. And it was so heavy-handed that it really turned me off. And I wish that there had been a bit more restraint in that, as if that had maybe been like a subplot or something that was kind of just in the background. But it was really like a driving force the whole movie, her addiction. And even down to the point of like, she has this realization at the end when she declines to accept a gift. And it's her kind of like taking responsibility for her addiction. But even that felt so... It just felt so hollow, because I was left thinking, okay, so she finally took responsibility for her addiction, but her brother is still dead and he was innocent. And I know you could look at this whole thing as, again, being metaphorical, that like he's not really in the story. It's not about his death. It's about the death of their relationship. And like she's done irreparable damage to it where she can't have access and she has to accept that or whatever. But within the fiction, he literally dies because he tried to help you. And it kind of felt like the messaging was all fucked up, where it was just kind of, it felt like what we ultimately landed on was it doesn't matter who you hurt as long as you get sober, which is not the lesson that any person in addiction should be taking away. You know what I mean?
Kill them all. You're good because you're sober now.
Like, there's so many other, like, taking responsibility for the harm you do to others and did to others, and, like, working to repair and rebuild those relationships and having community is essential in recovery. So, like, why are we sending these messages? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too literal with it, but... But I do think that like a lot of the messaging on it is really weird and inconsistent, because like you're right in that it is this big metaphor for addiction and everything, but then you have weird moments in it where in the climax of the movie we get this big twist reveal that Trevor is actually working for whatever his name, Roland White, and Colin is about to be taken by one of the cenobites, and
Riley shows up and is like, wait, you can take someone else basically instead. And then she just offers up Trevor because now she knows that he was, working against her this whole time.
Well, he's a bad person. Right. So he deserves this.
And so it's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
And
like, why not sacrifice yourself? Because you were the one that they said, if we can't have you, then give us another.
Yeah.
Why not fucking sacrifice yourself?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It and then the whole thing where at the end where they're like, you possess the final configuration, what is your reward? And she, looks back and she's talking with Matt there for a minute, her brother. And then she's like, no, I don't want anything from you. Like, it's this big, proud moment as though she, like, really worked through some shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not really. You got everyone except for your brother's boyfriend killed.
Straight up killed. And yourself.
Yeah.
And also, like, I know that it was temptation and everything of, like, him being there in that conversation. But she really, like, did she learn anything? Because
I don't think so.
The whole idea of, like, turning it down would be that you think you're getting something good, but she's been exposed to this enough to know that all of it's a monkey's paw situation. So she knows she's not actually going to get her brother back. So what does she think would happen? Like, she had no other choice but to decline their gift.
Yeah.
It's not like she, bravely sacrificed her relationship with her brother for the greater good or something. If she had accepted her brother, she would have done so knowing that it would have been some fucked up, weird version of him that wasn't real.
Yeah, Roland pretty much explicitly explains in a villain monologue like why he looks like he has like this weird contraption that like runs.
It's like plucking his nerves like a harp. Basically.
Yeah, and it's at like random intervals, so he can never actually grow numb to it.
Right.
And so he's pained, and it's like some weird magic sorcery stuff because like his heart is not in there, he can't like die or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he's like constantly in pain by this, and his whole objective was to get them to basically get somebody to go through the entire series of configurations with the cube until it got to the point where he could request an audience with this god again and then get this thing removed from him so he could go back to normal.
Right.
And they end up explaining to him, Pinhead does, that they cannot take their gifts back, but that they can make an exchange for a different gift. So he accepts and he chooses power, I think, this time.
Right.
I can't remember what the word is that he... For the other one, they all have L is the one, I think, except for power, but I'm not totally...
Power, I think, is Leviathan.
Leviathan, you're right, it was.
That's just synonymous with power.
Sure. But anyway, so they all have L's is the word that they use or whatever, and so he exchanges this, and the machine thing falls off of him, and then he gets a giant hook comes from the sky and pulls him up.
Pulls him up like a goddamn fish. Reels him in.
And surprise, the big trick is like you get power, but the power is you get turned into a cenobite.
Yeah.
Basically.
You're a cenobite now.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And so like that is their power, is they have domination over other things. And so it's not wrong, it's just not what he thought it would be.
It's monkey's paw.
And this is kind of the whole thing that like annoys the shit out of me about this movie, is that like he explicitly got to this point before, got the reward, they fucked him over with it. I mean, they didn't really. I mean, maybe they did. I don't know how aware of like the fucked up things that they do to humans are, or if they just genuinely see this as like...
I don't know if they even think of it as fucked up.
Yeah, like, and that's my point. They may not. So I'm saying it from the context of like, to you and me, all of this is fucked up. But he experienced this and he really thought, well, if I just do it again.
Right, and I'm just like, hey, I don't like what I got.
Surely they'll take it back. Right. Or if I get another one, that's the one that'll really work out for me.
Work the kinks out, because now I know to explicitly ask for it to not pluck my nerves like a harp.
Yeah. And the only instance we have is towards the end when he's like being turned into one. It kind of rides that line with him specifically between that, like, is he in pain or is this pleasurable?
Right. He's starting to sort of surpass human sensation.
Literally the only hint we get of that in the entire movie. Everyone else who gets got by one of the cenobites, it is explicitly painful.
Right.
And like they're obviously being tortured and not enjoying this at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, they do so many like things like that in this movie that I really don't care for. The whole thing where Riley, she's like, I don't know, in a 12-step program or something and staying with her brother.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And eventually she gets kicked out. And this kind of leads to the whole like series of things happening. And she's like going through her trunk in her car and she finds a little thing with pills and she just like throws them out, but then she picks them back up just to have her be high while she messes with this thing. So she can be like, oh, was that a thing that I was hallucinating or was it the box?
And that's explicitly just so that there's uncertainty about the situation, which doesn't even really matter because she fully believes the box is responsible immediately. The only thing that the pills accomplished was made it so other people didn't believe her, but they probably wouldn't have believed her anyway because she has a history of drug use.
Yes.
So even if she was like fully sober and she's telling them she was fully sober, they would have been like, yeah, of course you were sober.
Right, exactly. Which probably would have been a slightly better storyline because then it would have actually been her dealing with the consequences of hurting all of these people and her relationships being destroyed and this, that, the other. But instead, it's just like they immediately, like everyone basically immediately glosses over the fact that she was definitely using drugs after having been out all night drinking and stuff.
Right.
And they're just like, but your brother, where is he?
Yeah. Where'd Matt go?
Yeah, it's like they don't even care anymore. Yeah, and I mean, like, I get Trevor's motivation in that he's secretly working for Roland the whole time. So, like, that's why he doesn't really care.
Right.
But, like, the other two people, Colin and Nora is just such a ridiculously useless character in this entire story.
She's there to get killed.
She's literally there to get killed.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
Fully there to get killed. It's tough. I think that the other thing I didn't like was kind of this whole extended research sequence where she's trying to put together the pieces of like, what is this box? Who does it belong to? Whatever. And they simultaneously do a lot of glossing over of like how they got from point A to point B, but also painstakingly make us go through every part of the puzzle with them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we can't just skip right over who owns the building and blah, 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 and just get to Roland and get into the good stuff. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been over 2 hours.
Yep.
We have to like have them fucking look up real estate records to determine who owns the building, to connect them to this person, to connect them to, you know, this house over here and this piece of property that's related to this unsolved missing persons case and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. I don't care.
I don't care.
Bring back Pinhead. I want to see Pinhead killing people.
Yes.
Like, what are we doing?
I know. It was rough. It was this is my problem with every movie post 2019.
Okay.
Every movie wants to be 2.5 hours long.
It's not necessary.
It's not fucking necessary.
No. It's so weird because it's almost like they, like you said, like they glossed over certain things, but then they wind back around to where they don't actually gloss over it because there was a really confusing part where after Matt gets got, we don't actually see him get got. We hear him scream and then he's just not there anymore.
It's heavily implied, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then later one of the, I think it might actually be Pinhead, explicitly says to Riley that his ending was like, you know, spectacular or whatever. So he's definitely dead. But after this whole thing happens, Riley goes to Trevor. They start looking into stuff about the cube or whatever. And then they're just like at some kind of medical facility, assisted living. I don't actually know because we don't spend like a ton of time there. But that's where we like meet up with this assistant lady who worked for Roland.
And we met her briefly at the beginning of the movie. Yeah,
and both of us, when we were watching this, were like, how the fuck why are we here? What happened? Why did we go here? Because they don't explain it at all. So they're glossing over it, but then when they start talking to her, they're like,
oh, well,
we looked it up.
The warehouse where we found the box was registered under your name.
Yeah, and I'm like, so...
Yeah.
Like... but it's still 2 hours long, so what are we doing? Just cut this out. Like,
just cut all that shit out and just go right to, who ordered the fucking shipping container with the mysterious box in it? Roland Voight. Guess we better go to his house. You know, like, just go right for it. Also, insane that... So, within the fiction of this, Roland Voight went missing under like suspicious circumstances, and he was wanted for, well, he was like a suspect in multiple like missing persons cases, and it was kind of a whole thing. Mm-hmm. Why haven't police fucking searched this place? Because everything was just sort of as it was. Yeah,
it just kind of looks abandoned.
Roland just sort of lives in the walls, and you're telling me police hadn't torn that fucking place apart? How is this?
Yeah. Well, and even the assistant...
paying the electricity to keep
I don't know.
The power
because even the
on?
Assistant lady says that she handled his estate, like, towards...
So
after
that
he
implies that he's been treated as legally dead.
Yeah.
And so why is this place still up? Why was it not sold to someone?
Some other eccentric billionaire or whatever.
Like, it just...
Yeah, no,
it's
like, just to have this weird mansion in the middle of nowhere that has a big cage around it that he can live in the walls in as some like weird fucking hunchback-esque character for no other reason than this is just where we're going to have the big climactic thing.
Right, and then we spend a lot of time in there. It wasn't even the big climactic thing. That was like the midway point. But yeah, now I'm starting to hate this movie again.
I'm telling you, that the more you sit with it, it's not good.
I'm having ups and downs. I felt real negative about it, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe they had a point.
They did.
And now I'm coming back to like, actually, fuck this movie.
Actually, you know what? And another thing.
Oh my gosh.
One of the only cool things that they did is... some of the designs for some of the cenobites was kind of cool.
I liked the designs.
I did not like what they did with Pinhead.
Yeah.
For like for multiple things, I don't like what they did. I think the original Pinhead was more kind of androgynous, like they were supposed to be this kind of like it doesn't matter,
right?
Because it's not the point.
In the novella, they're explicitly described as being... all of the cenobites are described as being androgynous, and they're not assigned any kind of gender. I do think Pinhead in 1987 is coded as very masculine.
Sure.
But this one is also like they kind of swung in the other direction where it's not really like, coded as androgynous. It's explicitly coded as femme.
And I think the reason that like it annoys me is that like one, they could have, if they really wanted to, they could have made it more androgynous to align more with that.
Cool.
That would have been cool. But then it actually pisses me off because they like, not only did they swing so far into the other direction, they actually kind of went almost offensive with it because like the pins that are in Pinhead are pearl tipped for some fucking reason.
I didn't like that either. It's something I had a negative reaction to it at first because I was like, I felt like it kind of softened it and like feminized the Cenobites in a way that I didn't like. But then I kind of came back around on it and I was like, well, you know, in the books, like it's kind of this whole play of the glamorous, but also the barbaric. And so that is kind of a good way to express that.
But then every other part of the design could have looked less feminine then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
It's like you can do certain things mixed together and then that's how you achieve that look. Right. But they just like swung so hard in the other
on everything. Because all the Cenobites were very feminine appearing.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's interesting again because like this movie isn't very sexual, but then you have kind of, I hate to say like attractive Cenobites. Like I feel like they were presented in a way where like their curves and things were sort of accentuated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they're not being sexualized. I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah.
My feelings about this movie are complicated and they change moment to moment.
I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's that like attractiveness in the same way, you know, the nurses from Silent Hill 2, where like they're not really,
they're disturbing, but
they're kinda,
they're kinda,
So
boobala oobala.
Yeah, you know so I think it's similar to that, and where like when you look at it, you're like one of them literally like doesn't have like any like features, but they do have like some curves to them, and so you're kind of like, oh, okay, it's a little attractive, but it's also like weird and off-putting,
right?
And like again, I think those designs somewhat speak to this like weird mix of like it's supposed to be this like pleasurable thing but this off-putting weird thing,
right?
But it's just they don't go far enough into that at all for any of it to mean anything.
I think they could have taken it farther, and I would have appreciated more androgynous like everybody. I think that would have been more true to the novella. I don't know. I did like the performance of Pinhead. I thought she did a pretty good job. And honestly, I would have been sweating if I was in her shoes, because that girl had to have gotten some death threats on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Coming in playing a woman. How dare a woman play Pinhead in my Hellraiser?
Yeah, no, I whatever I think about the movie, that would never. Not her fault. That's fucking crazy that anybody would ever do that. And I know that it happens, not just with like this. I don't know that it did. I'm sure it did.
I don't even have to
Reddit exists, so it did happen. But like other movies where like it's insane. It's just,
I liked her performance. I know you and I don't agree on all of it, because like I liked some of her monologues, and I liked some of the incorporation of lines from the original and everything. So I thought she actually did a pretty good job, especially with some big shoes to fill. Because Pinhead is so iconic. And I mean, the actor Doug Bradley, I mean, he played Pinhead so many times. And to his credit, another thing that I, read in the kind of production of this was that they, I guess, had asked him if he wanted to do like a cameo. And there were two reasons. I think the official reason was that it was like during 2020 when they did the filming, and he was like, nah. But also he was like, I kind of want to leave my Pinhead legacy the way it is now.
That's respectable.
It's very respectable, and also low-key kind of feels like a diss that he's like, I don't want to put things on a sour note.
Yeah, hey, I don't really want my name on that.
Like, I don't know how this is going to be received. I'd rather just sort of...
You're gonna make Pinhead a woman? Oh, actually, I'm out.
Oh man, a lot of guys on the internet are gonna lose
he is the guy
mind.
on the internet.
No, don't put that on Doug Bradley. Don't put that on him. I'm sure he's wonderful. Yeah, just rough stuff. I don't know. It's a complicated feeling, at least for me. I'm honestly, the more I talk about it, I've still gone up and down. I think that this reboot had a lot of potential. I think with some changes, it would have been something that I would have genuinely liked. But I don't know. The way it currently exists to me, again, just to kind of summarize, the biggest missteps were removing the sexuality from, the universe. And then also removing the aspect of having like intent and desire mattering. I think those two things to me are really the parts that are dragging it down. I like the visuals. I liked the performances. I have no issues with any of that, but I wish that those things could have changed. If not both, at least one. Don't take away everything that roots me to the story all at once.
No, that's fair. What I'll say about it is we have watched other movies for this podcast and just outside of this podcast that I have disliked significantly more than this.
Oh, of course.
So this movie for me is just mid. Like I don't like so hate it that I'm gonna, I mean, obviously I will talk about it for like an hour, but like, I'm not gonna go to like a meetup with people to discuss my hatred of this movie.
And a woman?
Yeah.
What? Crazy.
everything else would have been fine if they just removed all the ladies.
Yeah.
No.
But if you're gonna put ladies in there, they should have big titties.
Yeah.
Retweet.
Yep. Anyway, let's rate this thing.
Let's rate it. I am just now realizing that my score, which I think accurately reflects the journey that I've been on, is exactly a 5. And I think that's because I truly feel on a coin flip how I feel about this movie changes, because I think there were a lot of great things and I think there were a lot of really bad things.
Yeah. Mine works out to a 4.6, so my coin toss would land more negatively every so often.
Yeah.
On that.
So together, official score 4.8.
I wouldn't put it on again. I don't think it's worth watching again.
I would not put it back on again. It's too long.
It's too long, honestly. If for no other reason, it's too long.
It ain't worth
I would rather go watch, because I don't know how long the original Hellraiser is, but if it is 2 hours,
it's got to be a tight 90. There ain't no way that movie is 2 hours.
Hour 34.
Told you, tight 90.
And the story is so much more compelling.
They fucking know how to make movies in the 80s.
Also,
man.
I gotta say, for me, the lowest category for this one was scares for me. I put it at a 3. I don't think this movie is that scary. If you're not into like blood and stuff, it's probably upsetting, because there's like a significant bit of that.
I gave it a 6 in scares because I think that the graphics, there were multiple parts where I was like, ooh, that would hurt.
There was one really, we can kind of talk, we can use this to like go into our scariest part. So I'll say my scariest moment was the scene where she does give up Trevor. And like these wire things come out and like are shooting all over him or whatever, and like his arm's at a weird angle, and it like starts to go down, and it literally like degloves his arm.
It plays him. Yeah,
it was pretty gross.
Terrible.
So like, that stuff's cool. They did some cool visual stuff.
Because I was like, I wouldn't recommend this movie to someone who's a scaredy cat, because I think it would wake some people out. Some of the gore.
I just, to me, what it comes to is a lot of the moments of like, when Matt gets killed, we don't see it.
Right.
We just hear him scream. The first guy that gets killed, we don't like fully see him die. He's in the background and it's blurry. It's like you can kind of see he's like hovering in the air and like hooks are coming into him and stuff. And you can see some blood, but it looks really bad, like CGI in the background kind of a thing. At least to me, it looks really bad.
I didn't notice that because it was blurry.
Yeah. I like, all I could look at was that in the background, and it didn't look good to me, but whatever.
Fair.
And so like what it just keeps coming back to is like there are some really cool effects that they do. I think the flaying thing is pretty neat. I thought the device thing, when it like first comes out of him and there's like that hole through Roland, I thought that was cool. But then when he starts to get like stitched back up, and particularly the internal parts, the final part where like the skin's reforming looks good, but the first part where his like spine is reforming just looks like bad CGI to me.
Yeah.
And so it's stuff like that where I'm just like, it really takes away from any of it really being that scary.
I gotcha.
So, but not to say that it's not scary if you don't like blood and stuff, because this
is a gory movie.
Yeah.
His 3, I'm going to be real with you. He can't hear me right now. He's wacko for calling this a 3.
What?
But told you couldn't hear. But yeah,
I can't hear you. I'm opening the window in the bathroom.
Sorry, I'm in a tunnel.
Oh, look, a moth.
Fuck off. Yeah, I think this movie is too gory to get under a 5.
That's fair.
But that's just me.
I'm just rating it from like maybe I'm too desensitized to it.
I think I'm kind of desensitized too, but I try to think about it. Put myself in the audience.
Maybe I'll just like, I'm not going to change my rating because that feels unfair, but I will like put a little asterisk and say maybe it's like this movie pissed me off enough that it's like it's tainted.
It sounds like you were pissed from the get-go.
You're
like, this CGI was so bad.
I just don't like it. It's not good.
Okay, fine.
The original one has a scene, and it's still, like, when I think about it, it makes me cringe. I don't like it. Yeah, because I've talked about it before. There's a scene where they're moving into the house, and he has a couch, and he, like, hits his hand on a nail that is sticking out, and it's the head of the nail. It's not, like, the pointy part of the nail. It catches on, like, the back of his hand, and it's a practical effect, which, like... It's a 1980s practical effect, so, like, it doesn't, you know, it's got that weird latexy skin.
Those practical effects were perfect.
No, they were cool. I love them. But it has that weird latexy skin ripping thing or whatever, and then the blood gushes out, and that makes me cringe so much more than anything that happened in this entire movie.
Fair.
So, that's where I am with it. You know, everything else I rated around a 5 because it's just, like, it's so incredibly, like, I don't know.
My lowest score was entertainment.
That's fair.
Because it's too fucking long.
It's too long. Make your movies shorter. Make your horror movie shorter.
Hey, directors out there, this is a genuine note from my heart. Edit yourself.
Yes. Horror movies in particular, because we're not talking about your Dune Part 2s.
I think those should be shorter too.
No, they should be, but, like, we're not talking about those.
Sure.
They can do whatever they want because we're not watching them for this podcast, or probably ever. I don't care enough about Dune to see them.
If I'm watching Dune, I'm watching the old one.
Sure. I haven't seen that either. I'm probably not going to watch it. Whatever. Anyway, the point is, horror movies in particular, we don't care about the lore. Like, almost ever. Not enough to make any one of your movies 2 hours long.
Okay, I accept it with that.
You want to get into the lore? That's where you have Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Because now we've had 6 movies of runtime to get the lore down. We have 6 movies to dissect it. That's how you get your length out.
Yeah.
You just make 8 million movies about it, and then you say, yeah, that's Jason, baby, that's Hellraiser. We got 11 of these things.
Here's what I will say, because I love lore.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that it's not worth making your movie over 2 hours for.
No.
And here's my argument every time.
Yeah.
One of the greatest remakes ever is The Ring.
Yeah.
Great remake of the J-Horror Ringu. Awesome remake. That movie also has a research segment where she's having to put together all the pieces. They keep that shit under 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
That movie fucking rules.
That was a good movie.
Both the original and the remake both rule for different reasons.
Yeah.
But the remake is so good. And they have this intriguing research segment, but that movie is not over 2 hours long.
Yeah. And
we get way more fucking lore in that movie than we did in this one.
Yep.
So what happened after 2019?
I don't know. I feel like people think the movie needs to be 2 hours long because that's what people want. I disagree. I don't think people want that. An hour and a half is great.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an extended research scene, who cares? Right. You show up. It's a horror movie. We're not there for that anyway. They can show up and the bad guy can be like, "How did you find me?" Whatever. And the person will be like, "I looked it up," and then they just get to fighting.
Found your number in the yellow pages.
They can just explain it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to have our cake and eat it too moments where we go to the facility where the assistant lady is staying because she's on, assisted living now or whatever. And then also explain how we found her. Like, we can just go there. It's fine.
Yep.
Or something. I don't know.
Or just give us the briefest research montage.
Or skip that entire part and just be like, because the end result is them going to fucking Roland's place anyway. Just go there.
What I said.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's just like, it is frustrating because it starts to feel like I just wasted an extra 30 minutes or 2 hours for the entire runtime of this movie. So.
Yes. Agreed. I support this.
You could be a third of the way through the second Hellraiser movie if you just put them on back to back.
This is what I'm saying. And it's way more worth your time.
Yeah.
The second Hellraiser rules.
Yeah. Because they bring back the stepmom again.
Yeah, and Julia's hot as hell in a weird 80s way.
Yeah, and she's mean.
She's mean.
She's mean in both of them, but significantly meaner in the second.
Yeah, I mean, she's pretty rancid the whole time, but, we love that about her.
Yeah, it's cool.
Anyway, I think we've said enough.
Yeah, watch this movie if you want, but don't blame me if you don't like it.
I will say, you might enjoy this movie if you're not, a Hellraiser fan. if you don't have anything to compare it to like we do, then you might not feel those feelings and you might just take it as it is.
Oh, maybe.
Which is always, I feel like always a consideration with remakes is that we're by nature, even if we try to set it aside, we are doing a direct comparison. Mm-hmm. So, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. You know what? I'll say this. If you've never seen the original Hellraisers and you also haven't seen this yet, or you've only ever seen this one, just like let me know what you think about it. Because maybe it is for like a modern audience that doesn't know anything about the other ones, and like it does stand on its own in that context. Yeah. Because I think you're right in that, because it is a remake and we're coming at it, or a reboot, whatever. Yeah. And we're coming at it from this angle of like, we know what Hellraiser was. Mm-hmm. So the entire time, whether we want to or not, we're kind of comparing it to that. Right.
Yeah. Just take it with a grain of salt. We're diehard fans. We're old school fans. Yeah. Anyway, you got anything else to say?
No. I'm surprised we didn't do like a You Open the Box.
I came.
Yeah. They didn't do that in the movie.
I was waiting for it and they never did it.
That's another hour on this episode.
Yeah. They didn't say You Open the Box and I came.
I'm pissed.
I'm coming.
Oh no. It's like out of all the lines they could have done, they didn't do that one. Yeah. It would have been, honestly, mad respect if they had Chatterbox do it. Like, not actually say it, but just like, but like in a way that you could tell. Yeah, like, it didn't even have to be words, but just like did it in a way that you definitely
Morse
knew.
Code yeah. With the smacking. This is making great radio.
That is hard. I had to concentrate so much to do that.
Yes. They didn't say You Open the Box, I came. Yeah. They didn't say Jesus wept, which is my favorite line.
Yeah. That's a pretty sick line.
I'm kind of glad they didn't, because it wouldn't have made sense in anything that they had in this movie.
Oh, like anything else did.
Yeah, but I love that line so much. It goes so fucking hard. Yeah. And also, just side thing, if you haven't seen any of the Hellraiser movies, Hellraiser 1 and 2 are worth a watch.
Yeah, go watch those.
Decide what you will about this one. Whatever relationship you want to have with this movie is your own. Yeah. Not ours.
And then watch whatever the Hellraiser one is where CD Head is in. You can just look that up. Yeah. It's 3 or 4.
Yeah. He throws CDs and he's covered in them.
It's sick.
It's great.
It's cool.
All right. Well, anyway. If you have any feedback, suggestions for us, or if you want to let us know what you thought about Hellraiser 2022, you can hit us up. We're on social media. It's at First Fright Pod on Instagram and X. We also have a Gmail. That is firstfrightpod@gmail.com. And we also have a Facebook page. It's just the name of our podcast, Love at First Fright. Feel free to interact with us there. We'd love to hear from you.
I'd love to know which one of you sick freaks actually likes this movie.
I have a feeling we're going to get some feedback from our friend group when this episode drops. I have a feeling we know some people who might be opinionated on this.
Oh, you think they liked it?
I don't know. That's why I'm curious.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you know us personally and you have my number, let me know what you thought.
Yeah, please. Please. As always, scare well. See you next time.
I came.
You opened the box. We all decided that we would like to come together.
Goodbye.
It was a group decision. Except